When they started organizing MAMA, the two people that were really doing that were Jerry Cizik, head of the CATA, and Jim MATEJA.
It was crazy how we were founded. I'm sitting at the Tribune, minding my own business, when Jerry Cizik calls. He was president of the CATA at the time. And he says, how come these guys in Detroit have an organization of auto writers and you guys in Chicago don't? And I said, well, for one very good reason, nobody's ever thought about it. And so he said, I'll tell you what, you call up some people and get together some people and see about forming the organization. And I says, well, I don't know how many people I can call. He says, and when you call them, tell them I'll buy lunch. So I called 5 people, who then called 5 people, who then called 5 people. I figured at first we might get 5 or 6 people. We got like 80 people showed up because the magic word's free lunch.
The first thing is my introduction to MAMA was a yellow pad on a table. It was a plain, simple table, and it said on top of it, anybody interested in joining a writers group in Chicago, please sign up.
A lot of us who were working mostly either in newspapers or electronic media got an invite via snail mail asking us to kind of join Jim MATEJA and the folks here at the CATA, the Chicago Auto Trade Association, to come to this free luncheon, which is a great way to entice journalists and talk about a new organization that was coming up.
But then somebody said, okay, what are we going to call ourselves? And everybody looked around, well, I don't know. In Detroit, it's called DAWG, Detroit Auto Writers Group. We can be Chicago Auto Writers Group, COG. He said, or we could shorten it to Chicago Auto Writers, CAW. And it was getting worse. And we're about to excommunicate Phil when he says, but I got one other possibility. He says, the Midwest Automotive Media Association, which comes out to MAMA. And we didn't even have to vote. That second, we were MAMA.
So after the meeting, I went up to Jim to congratulate him and say, hey, if you need any help with anything, let me know. And he looked at me and he says, you'd make a great program chairman. And in electing officers, they hadn't designated anyone to schedule events and speakers. Well, that became me.
I think anybody who could spell car wanted to become a member.
We had Alex Trotman, who was then the CEO of Ford Motor Company, speak at our auto show luncheon.
We have another meeting, all of a sudden Phil says, Trotman's going to speak. And I said, what happened? And he says, he gets all this mail every day, hundreds of letters, and his secretary put it in front of him. He goes through the letters, he's throwing them out. So all of a sudden he stopped. And he says, there's this envelope on the return address that says, MAMA. He says, so he opened it, read it, and told his secretary, tell him I'll agree to it, because you never say no to MAMA.
But to get the CEO of Ford, have this packed room of journalists and people from the car companies at the auto show, that meant we had arrived, I thought.
Well, I was lucky enough to be at Consumer Guide at the time MAMA was founded, so Rick Popley, one of the founding members of MAMA, got me involved right off the bat, so it's neat. It's been able to see MAMA grow through all the years.
Early on, somebody suggested that we do some kind of a racetrack event. It was about 25 or 30 people, and trying to find an interesting driving route here around Chicago isn't easy. So we ended up going to Lake Geneva. We drove kind of a westerly route up to Lake Geneva, had lunch at a resort, and then came back on a different route. And one of the highlights of the return trip was a stop at the Mars Cheese Castle.
And I was there for the first spring rally. Bob Coker came to me one day and said, hey Mark, I got this crazy idea. And I said, Bob, I don't know about this overnight trip. We're driving out of town. We got to get manufacturers to give us cars to drive. I said, I don't know if that's such a great idea. And Bob said to me, hey, I'll make it work. Don't worry about it. And so, I was president at the time and Bob was VP. And he put that first rally together at Gingerman. And he said, so you want to do it again? And I said, well, yeah, but let's really do it again. Let's make it, let's blow it out. And so that's when we decided right then and there to go to go up to Road America.
I got into this really early because Mark Bielik was president at the time, and I'd had some experience with hotel logistics, so I was involved in the spring rally.
My favorite memory is way back when, during my presidential duties here at MAMA, we were at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and it started to pour about 4 in the morning. And this was before we had a structure, a permanent structure. Everything was housed in a temporary tent. So we had kind of a river running through this tent at 5 in the morning with all this electrical equipment just, waiting to blow up on us, and a lot of us just shaking our heads saying, what are we going to do now?
I think my favorite MAMA memory was our first fish fry, our first out-of-towner, first evening of the rally fish fry, just because it was an unexpected success. We needed to cut costs. The first dinner was very expensive, and it just turned out to be a huge hit, and now it's sort of the stuff of legends.
But by 9 o'clock, the sun came out, and we had a really good rally.
Well, I got involved. I was working at Pioneer Press newspapers, and it was actually Paul Bryan who had followed me and saw that I was the new editor of automotive at Pioneer Press, and he actually reached out to me and said, there's this thing. It's called Midwest Automotive Media Association. I really think you should come to a lunch sometime. I showed up. I was the only woman there, and it was a little bit weird, and then I promptly spilled my drink all over Paul. And he asked me to come back again.
Today, when we go out to Elkhart Lake, and there's truckloads of cars on the 18-wheelers, and hundreds of cars and hundreds of people, that's how we've evolved.
I think I have a lot of really good memories from MAMA. Trying to decide how many CIMINILLOs people could bench press, or if it was how many CIMINILLOs that you could fit into a trunk, or I don't know. Me as a unit of measure, are you sensing a theme here?
The unique thing I think about MAMA is it's not just a collection of journalists and PR people and associate members, but we're all family. We're all looking out for each other. We're all helping each other.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. I had time to prepare for this, and I don't have anything. One word description of MAMA.
Family.
We made a name for ourselves that it's a group dedicated to automobiles and to writing and to spreading the word about cars, and lots of people have joined and stuck with us, and it's got to be quite a group right now.
From that seed, we have grown to this great, giant tree that we are today.